of Scots, the title is over 1100 years old and, according to national legend, was first held by Kenneth MacAlpine, better known today in the anglicised form, Kenneth MacAlpine. But his legend exaggerated him and his title. For his own lifetime, and the lifetimes directly following him, he was only ever known as King of Picts. A great conqueror he may have been, and it is true the first King of Scots was of his line, but the story of how Pictland became Scotland is not as simple as it seems, tangled up in a family feud that would change the cultural destiny of Scotland forever. It's 878, and King Éadach mac Cinnda, second son of the famous Kenneth MacAlpine, is murdered in a revolt by his own men. A revolt supposedly led by his own cousin, Geric mac Ra. King Éadach had been king for only a year after his brother, Constantine mac Cinnda, had been executed by Vikings. King Éadach was a weak and ineffective king in comparison, and he paid the ultimate price for it. By the rites and traditions of the time, the next king should have been the son of Éadach's older brother, but he and Éadach's own son were only boys at the time, no more than 7 years old, and Geric had other ideas. He had killed the king, and now he took the throne, forcing the young princes Dol mac Constantine and Constantine mac Éadach to flee for their lives. They fled to Ireland, where their aunt Niall Muir was reigning as High Queen through her marriage to Éadach Finlea. When it came to taking her young nephews, the last remnants of her dead brothers, Niall Muir would not take no for an answer. She was the daughter of King Kenneth MacAlpine, sister of 2 kings of Picts, and apparently she was not a woman to be messed with. By taking in her young nephews, she was adding to her brood of royal children. Through her position as Éadach Finlea's third wife, she was stepmother to Dol mac Cinnda, a future High King of Ireland, Dhéanann na Gcodharmlia, a future High Queen through marriage, Mael Dhu, a reputed saint, Mael Dún, who ruled as deputy of Annalich, and her own son, Neil Glendu, who also ruled as High King of Ireland years later. By taking in and effectively raising her young nephews, she had raised 2 High Kings, a High Queen, a saint, a deputy, and the first 2 kings to have the title King of Scots. Effectively, she was the mother figure to the most important rulers of the age. This made her such a powerful woman that even the male centre chronicles of the time thought that she merited her name and her death recorded in the annals of Ulster. Meanwhile, back in Pictland, Geric was reigning as king, and also as king of Strathclyde, so his position as foster father to Echoich mac Run. Echoich had been only 2 years old when Geric seized power, at which time his father also apparently dies. Through his mother, a daughter of Kenneth MacAlpine, Echoich was heir apparent to the Pictish throne, whilst his cousins were in hiding. And Geric wasted no time in utilising this to his own ends. As a killer of the previous king, Geric's position was shaky at best, but as the guardian of young Echoich, he was now in command of a much vaster kingdom than even his uncle, Kenneth MacAlpine, had held. But his reign was not to last. While the true heirs to the throne grew up safe in Ireland, so grew loyalty to them and the feeling that Geric had no place on the throne or as guardian to Echoich. The Chronicle of the Kings of Alba tells us that in Geric's 7th year as king, an eclipse of the sun occurred. To people at the time, this would have been a great sign of things to come. Echoich and his foster father Geric were expelled from the kingdom. Geric was on the run, with 9-year-old Echoich as his only leverage. Geric was weak, as was the Celtic culture he had instated as king in place of the Pictish one, and the boys he'd let flee to Ireland were fast approaching the age of medieval adulthood when they could return to challenge him. Whether the boys left Ireland in 885 or waited until they reached true adulthood is unclear. What we do know is that by 889, the young King Echoich seems to vanish. Geric had lost his throne and his leveraged power, and the young princes had returned to take back what was theirs. If they hadn't battled for all 4 years, battle was always on Geric's horizon, chasing him like the ghost of his dead cousin. In a mirror image to Geric's betrayal, the young cousins Dol and Constantine stayed loyal to one another, Dol seeking his rightful throne, and Constantine seeking justice for his father's murder. Maelmurray had raised the scared little boys into kings, and in 889 the final blow was struck. Georg disappears from the story, most likely dead at one of the cousins' hands, and Dor was crowned king of the new Celtic kingdom that Georg's disruption in the line of kings had created. Strathclyde was at one with Pictland, a new and changed kingdom with a new and changed king, Dor, King of Scots. Georg is not remembered as a great king. In fact, he's barely remembered at all, with his name pointedly missing from many historical lists, and almost all of his time as king is unrecorded, a black mark in the monarchy that House MacAlpin would rather forget. Although Georg's Celtic culture caught on while he ruled, if Kenneth's grandsons had returned from Ireland with their Pictish culture intact, there would almost certainly have been a sudden revert back to the old ways to mirror the return of the rightful heirs, but it was not to be. Dol and Constantine had spent at least an equal amount of time in Celtic Ireland as they had in their Pictish homeland, and had been raised by none other than the High Queen of Ireland herself. If they had returned with the culture of their forefathers, our Scottish culture today would look very different, with painted faces and fire festivals in place of Celtic knots and Christianity. This is the result of the woman who raised the would-be kings. We owe our Celtic culture to Maelmurray. The King of Scots had been crowned, preceding his English equivalent Athelstan by almost a whole generation. The Celtic culture of Scotland was sealed in the crucible of this family feud that changed the fate of Scotland forever. Scotland was founded in bloody betrayal and justice through victory.
Morn